Foxes have dens, and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. And so God is showing us something here incredibly important, that he is willing to move heaven and earth for us. So he moves Mary and Joseph from where they were and where they're going to go back to, where they're going to raise their son, to the little bitty village where Joseph's family and lineage was from. You see, Bethlehem, as we all know, Bethlehem basically means house of bread. Bethlehem is the hometown of King David. And Joseph was out of the line. Another prophecy fulfilled there, right? And so I want you to hear what's happening. God is orchestrating world affairs, government affairs, according to his plan. He is now orchestrating things in individual lives according to what he had prophesied. And the reason why God prophesied, why does God prophesy? Why does he give us these understandings of what's about to happen? Jesus said it over and over again. I want you to know that I've said it before it happens so that you can believe who I am. So God doesn't need to tell us beforehand, but he knows that we're unwilling to get out of our disbelief until he says, listen, I'm going to tell you years before, centuries before, decades before, I'm going to tell you where the baby's going to be born under those circumstances. And then God is able to move the pieces of the world and the government and people's lives around. And he did all of that for us. He moved in the heart of Caesar Augustus. I think it's time for a census. He moved in all of what he was needing to do with Mary and Joseph. And guess what? Their obedience is what helped them to be a part of this amazing plan. So here's the thing that happens. Ordinary things get remembered when they're a part of God's plan, and insignificant things become unbelievably significant because of God's prophecy about them. Here's what happens. So they go to the town, they get to Bethlehem, and now I can sort of imagine this. I was telling this before, so again, just trying to give you a picture of where I grew up, or where I spent some early part of my life in Ashe County in North Carolina. Ashe County is about 144 square miles and has a population of about 27,000 people. Olney is about 13 square miles and has a population of about 32,000 people. Big difference between where I grew up and where we are. So you go down, if I had to take my family and go back to Ashe County and everybody else had to do the same thing, here's what would happen. We'd be looking for a place to stay because there's no way that we could be housed with my family that's down there. There's not enough hotel rooms. Probably the same situation in Bethlehem, right? So Mary and Joseph get to Bethlehem, and they're looking for some place to stay. It would have been, the hospitality was the obligation, but people's houses are already full. Every room is filled, and so when they get to the kind of place where they have no other option, here's what happens. And this is not a bad thing. This is not an angry thing. This is just, look, the only thing I have is room out in the barn, out in the stable. There's some hay there. The animals are there. It's a little bit comfortable. Now, so they go out there, and I love the word here. The Bible says, in that last verse, verse 7, the Bible says that they were out there because there was no room. There was no room for them. And so I want you to just think about this making room. God's shifting all sorts of things in the world to make room for us in his kingdom, to make room for us in his mansion, to make room for us in his life, to make room so that we can know him intimately. But he purposefully, because if he can orchestrate all the rest of that, he purposefully orchestrates that there's no room for Jesus, for Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus in the homes there. They have to be out. Does any of that resonate with you as to anything else Jesus has said? You know, in the foothills there of Judea, it was often the case that there would be, in the very easy to carve out rock. There were caves. And so a lot of times the barn was kind of a cave. Even some people's homes were sort of in an indentation in the side of the mountain. But so this is probably some kind of a cave-like thing. And so it just struck me that Jesus was born in a cave and died in a cave. Well, he didn't die in a cave, but he was laid in a cave. But there was a time when a teacher, if you remember this in the Gospels, there was a time when a teacher came up to Jesus, a scribe, an important person in the religious faith, and he said, Jesus, this is what he said to Jesus, I will follow you wherever you go. And you know what Jesus said back to him? Foxes have dens, and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. That was true from the day he was born. It was true all of his life, and it was true on the day that he died. He didn't have a grave prepared for him. Somebody had to donate a place for his burial. And so God is showing us something here incredibly important, that he is willing to move heaven and earth for us, but he brings his Son to us in the most humble of circumstances. The word that we have is manger. Most of the times it's pictured as a wooden manger. I think most scholars agree it was probably carved in stone. It was probably just a hollowed trough out. Now, I don't know how many of us have been around farms and farm animals, but most moms today would not be like, hey, I really want to lay our newborn baby in a trough. Because you don't worry so much about a trough being clean, right? Animals been eating out of it, drinking out of it. But you picture this, that Mary walks in and this is the only place that they have to stay. And she looks and she says, we can lay down here on the hay or we can make a bed over here, but where am I going to put the baby? And she sees that hollowed out stone and she says, I'll lay him in there. Dirty, filthy place. It's kind of interesting to me how much God would do for us and how much he would sacrifice for us. Now, here's the piece that I think we have to wrestle with. How is it that the God of the universe would do so much to make so much room for us, and we can say we have no room for him? I don't have any room in my schedule for you, God. I don't have any room in my time to really pray. How is it that there can be such a contrast that the God of the universe, the most important being, there is no one higher, no one more holy, would say, you and I loved what Jenny said, this burden of love. You don't do it because it's a burden. When you love, I can sort of picture, this is a scary analogy for me that's just come into my head, but I can sort of picture God and Michelle kind of looking very similar here all of a sudden. Because there is, help me Jesus, there is nothing about the decorating that Michelle does out of burden. She's not trying to impress anyone. This is actually just out of love for the season, out of love for the beauty of what it looks like when the house is decorated, out of the joy of coming home. I know this, I've kind of figured this out, that if I'm home before her, I better go turn all of those lights on. It's about 75 different plugs that you got to plug in order to get, because when she comes home, she wants to just bask in the beauty of Christmas.